Hello everybody, give me a moment. I'm just going to try and patch Norah in, who's going to be joining us today. Okay. So Norah Durrant is here she is.
Hello.
Norah, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. Really good. Sorry about that technical hiccup. Not sure what.
I have a
Not,
technical gremlin that follows me around, so if there's anything
oh,
technical that's going to go wrong, it'll go wrong with me.
oh.
But thank you for joining us, and I'd love you to introduce yourself in a moment. Just to say a little bit about the Tall Wall. So we are a specialist coaching and learning business. We work primarily in professional service firms, supporting organizations to create environments where all talent can thrive. And much of what we do is looking at gender equality in these organizations and understanding how really 21st century business need not be at the expense of individuals, their families or society. And actually, we want that environment where men and women and lots of diversity can thrive. So I'm joined by Norah. And Norah Durrant is a legal recruiter. She's a former lawyer. And as a recruiter, she specializes in particularly female partners in law firms. It's quite a niche, but very important part of the market. So, Norah, do you want to tell us a little bit more about you and the work that you do?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me along today, Helen. It's great to be here. I should say I'm a bit nervous. It's my first ever Insta Live, so bear with me. I hope it'll be fine, but bear with me. So yes, I'm an ex-employment lawyer, which I absolutely loved, but I moved to legal recruitment, crikey, 14 or 15 years ago now. And I work for a business in London called Deacon Search. And I've always focused at partner level, but over the last couple of years, I've really changed my focus to working with female partners and senior female lawyers, and with law firms who really want to attract good quality senior female lawyers into their practices, and who take diversity across the board very seriously. And I moved into this focus because I passionately really believe in it, and I really do want to help in some way to elevate female talent. And so we were chatting about this the other day, that now really is the time for female lawyers of all levels to really push themselves, because the market is really, it's vibrant at the minute, and more law firms are contacting me to say that they want these good, strong female lawyers, good, strong role models in their firms. And so I love doing this. I love focusing on working with female lawyers. And I've discovered that it takes, it's a very different skill set involved as well, because you have to be very patient, and it's all about building relationships. Female lawyers don't want to move just for the money. Yes, that's a factor, but it's not about money. So it's getting to know what really makes them tick and fostering those long-term relationships.
Yeah. And, from the work that we do in partnerships, from a coaching perspective, I know that either moving into partnership, whether you're being promoted internally, for example, is a massive step for most people. And moving as a partner to a new firm is also a huge step. And it's a really sensitive topic, because it's, it's not a leap that people make rashly, that's for sure. And certainly women don't make rashly. And so having a relationship with the recruiter is really important, because these are not decisions that are made really, really quickly. You mentioned about the market and how the market is so buoyant for female talent. And from you'll know this better than me as a recruiter, but from my perspective, the organizations seem to have woken up to the idea that there is real economic, financial benefit to having diverse talent. So the demand for senior females, be you a partner in a law firm or any senior woman in any organization, is very, very high, because organizations know they've got a problem. They know that the way they look to the outside world and internally is not great. And more importantly, they're not getting the results that they could get if they had more diverse talent inside their business. So I think the really positive news to start on is that the market is very buoyant. Both internally in organizations and if you're looking to move.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a massive sea change, I think, in probably the last year or two. I think especially since COVID, actually, because people in organizations have had time to sit back and reflect. But certainly law firms who maybe were slightly behind the curve are now recognizing the importance of having a diversity, shall we say, across the board, but particularly at that senior level. And it's so good to read even today about a law firm who we know well and really respect have just promoted a female lawyer to be their next managing partner. We're seeing more and more of that. And there's so many studies which we see day in, day out, just showing that actually if you have a more diverse leadership group, it leads to all sorts of benefits, where they're financial, a more cohesive business. There are just so many benefits which we're showing day in, day out. And certainly, as we keep saying, now is the time. So many firms are contacting me because they're saying we can't have a sea of male, white, middle class, middle-aged men running these organizations. That doesn't reflect society. And so they need to do something about it. And now is most certainly the time to do something about it, because everyone has woken up to the fact that actually we all benefit from it.
Yeah, I think it started off being the right thing to do, and sort of companies jumping on the bandwagon. And I'm sure there's lots of those that still thinking, right, we better do this because everyone else is. But actually, the data is such that it is the most profitable, most biggest factor to success now. It's a huge factor. Like, there's actual tangible bottom line results if you do this, which is of course going to tip most organizations over the edge. So yeah, it's the good news is the market is very buoyant, and you know that is a great piece of news. But it's also interesting when I look at what we do as coaches, and you must have this as well when you're speaking to candidates. You know, if I think about individuals that I'm coaching who are partner candidates just internally in an organization, so they've been tapped on the shoulder, they've been told, we think you should be partner in this firm, you would like to put you forward through the process. Most of the time, most of those coachees that I speak to don't want to be a partner. They don't think they can be. The biggest question they've got is, I just don't know if this is for me. Can I do it? And there is the problem that you must see on the other side of the coin, which is, I don't want to move from where I am because it's quite a scary thing to do.
It's so interesting, actually, and I always go back to this point that I think there is a real difference between men and women in this regard. And so if I speak to a female candidate and I say, look, this opportunity's come along, it looks perfect for you, and this is why I think it's perfect, they will look at it and they will look at, it's not a job description, but you know what I mean, and they will say, but I can do most of that job, but I cannot do all of it. And it's almost they're ticking boxes to say what they can't do, and they're scared because they feel that they cannot do absolutely everything. The other thing that's holding female lawyers back is so that's the self-belief side of it, but it's also a lot of these promotions, whether they're internal promotions or external, they come at a time in women's lives when they probably have had children, or they might have had children, or they're looking after parents, or they have other responsibilities, and they really worry that they're not going to be able to juggle everything. So again, they're holding themselves back because they feel that they cannot do everything properly. So I come across this day in, day out, where I'm really trying to encourage female lawyers that actually you can do it, and don't focus on the couple of things that you can't do, focus on everything that you can do. And I do often wonder, do our male counterparts go through the same thought process? Sometimes they will, but I think we do tend to hold ourselves back because we think we're not perfect. We can't do everything. And no one's perfect. No one's perfect.
Yes, and the sense that you will get found out if you push yourself forward. I think that's a huge thing. I see that so much that, yeah, if I take that leap and I'm bold enough to go for partner in my law firm, or to move as a partner, like the wheels will fall off and I will get found out that I've really been winging it, which, by the way, everyone's winging it all the time, men and women. But I think there's a sense of wanting the safety and security, and there's no shame in that. The safety and security of what you know, and that a move comes with uncertainty, and I think that's really understandable. But I kind of, I hold myself back. I have to hold myself back so much as a coach, because sometimes you just want to say, come on, you can do it. It's like, you are so good. Look at all the evidence. And we'll come on to how we can kind of support women to make these moves in a moment. But the biggest things for me are the lack of confidence and the imposter syndrome. And something we've talked about before is the unwillingness to claim those client relationships, which is all really important as a partner. You have to demonstrate that you have relationships that you can leverage in some way.
And that is often the tricky point. So from my client's point of view, so from the law firm point of view, when they ask me to go out and find partners, that's absolutely fantastic. We know which area we're going to look at, but they will always want, or more often than not, they will want a partner who can bring work with them. So the book of business is very important. And I'm trying to educate clients that it's not all about that. It's not all about book of business, and it's showing that someone's on that upward trajectory, shall we say. From the candidate point of view, so from the female partner's point of view, I spend so much of my day talking to them about that, because their starting point will often be, I can't take any work with me. None of my clients will move with me. And then when we explore it, they will say, well, that's been a client of the firm for 15 years and it's completely institutionalized. And then when I take it a step further, they say, well, I've acted for that client for those 15 years. And actually, most of the work comes through to me. So there you do have your book of business, and it's just having that confidence to look at yourself and look at what you actually do on a day-to-day basis and believe in yourself. And that's where I come in, and you as well, Helen. It's just showing individuals that actually they do have that client following, and to really believe in themselves.
Yeah, and that is easier said than done, isn't it? The other thing is the other sort of theme that comes up for us is they don't see enough role models above them. If you're going for a promotion internally, for example, or you're going to another organization that maybe doesn't have a lot of women, which is why they are looking for more diversity, they don't see those role models. And I often point out that if you're waiting for role models, you might be waiting a really long time. And sometimes we are the role model, and we don't get to actually choose if we're role models or not. People decide that for us. And you are a role model, and it's your responsibility to think about what you want to do with that. But often they're just not seeing others that have done it, and therefore they think it isn't open to them.
And that's a really, really valid point. Something came out in The Lawyer recently, and it literally named and shamed a few law firms in London, US law firms in London, who don't have any female partners. So that was quite telling. But I do speak to candidates, particularly BAME candidates, who are just really frustrated because they're really good lawyers, they're doing really well, but when they look up that ladder, they cannot see themselves there. They just cannot see anyone who looks like them. And I can't imagine how hard that must be for individuals. It must be really, really difficult. But you're right about the role model, because you don't have to have a role model in your firm or in a competitor firm or even in your line of work. You can have role models from all walks of life. And it was really interesting. I put a thing on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago when I confessed that Friday was my non-working day.
Yes, that got so much response.
I know,
that was
it
huge.
did.
Yes.
It did. And I wasn't expecting that at all. And it was so telling. But the number of people who messaged me privately to say that you are a role model, and I would never, ever, ever look at myself like that, ever. So you're right, people are looking at you in a positive way, and we have to recognize that and help and help. I spoke to someone the other day, and she had a lovely phrase about helping pull people up the ladder, and that's what we all have a duty to do that.
I absolutely agree. You know, when I'm coaching women who are coming back from mat leave in all sorts of organizations, we talk about the fact that they are now a role model for others in the organization that might want to be a parent themselves. They're looking at this woman to think, can I make it work? Are you setting the boundaries, which mean you get some kind of balance here? And there is an example where we just don't get to choose whether we're role models or not. We are, because people are looking at you and trying to think, could I do that? Would I want to do that? The other thing that, and I had this only yesterday, is a sense of loyalty to the organization. That's why women don't move. A real sense that, you know, I've been looked after in this organization. I might have had a maternity leave or two. You know, I couldn't possibly leave because they've been so good to me, which I think is a fair comment. I can understand that.
I think that is to be applauded. Absolutely, that's to be applauded. And I think with younger generations come through, they probably don't have that same loyalty. But I think that loyalty is to be applauded. But you kind of know, it's having that ability to recognize when it's time to move on. And sometimes you only know it's time to move on sometimes when another opportunity is being presented to you. And you see that another firm or another organization could offer you something different. But I think, yes, it's to be applauded, but sometimes there is a time, there's a seminal moment when you realize, actually, this has been great, but I have so much more to offer in a different place. And I can learn so much more in a different place. So it's just been open to that, really.
And you've made me think about the lesson there for organizations that have female talent and need to retain them. So what are you doing to retain this talent if you're not developing them, sponsoring them, listening to them? You know, you will lose talent because there is so much opportunity out there, particularly for female lawyers. You know, that is a real lesson for organizations to be very mindful. How are you retaining these fantastic, talented women in your organization? What can, I'm thinking about what I do as a coach and what you do as a recruiter to help women get over the mental hurdle of, can I really do this? You know, what do you do with your hats on? Because I know you do a lot of hand-holding in a different way to the hand-holding I do.
Yeah, it's really difficult, and everyone needs something different. So it's really just outlining an opportunity. So I'm never pushy at all. So it's really outlining an opportunity, stepping back from that. I get to know the individual first of all. So I get to know what makes them tick, why would they move, what would interest them. And then it's showing them the opportunity and then trying to introduce them to people at that law firm. And whether it's a formal interview or just a coffee, and just try and add some color to the opportunity. And there is an awful lot as well of trying to get over the imposter syndrome and trying to show them that actually they are good enough for this. They're brilliant. And that's where we then work quite well together, because a lot of the female individuals who I'm working with do just need that little bit extra. They need someone to show them how good they are, really. They don't believe it themselves, and that's why they need people like us to really show them the way, as it were.
And I think the imposter syndrome piece, there's a lot of work that we do on that topic in all sorts of forums, and all sorts of situations, but it's breaking down what is really going on and trying to evidence why they've been approached in the first place, either for an internal promotion or for an external move. You know, why? So what is it? How, I always say, you know, this always makes people smile, but if you are an internal candidate or an external candidate, and you've been approached, do you think you have pulled the hood over these very clever group of lawyers who have decided that you would be a good candidate either for partner internally or externally? You know, have you really hoodwinked all those people and this enormous process that either way you go, internally or externally, there's a huge process to go through. Exactly. Do you think you have managed to hoodwink them all, that actually you're rubbish and just winging it? Because I mean, that would be amazing, isn't it, if somehow you have completely winged it.
Exactly.
So I try and present that there is very rigorous processes involved for good reason. They need to be making the right decision.
Exactly. And it's all a different process, and it can take a long time, and it's not handhold, and that sounds patronizing, but it's just being there to talk through the issues, and someone who's relatively independent and can say, look, this is why it's great, or this is something we need to work on. And it's just having someone that you trust. Going back to trust, that's so important. It's just having work with someone who you trust, who can give you the best possible advice. Yeah.
Well, we've gone over our promised time, because we can always talk about this till the cows come home, can't we? Because we've had a few conversations. For people listening, if you want to check out what Norah does, she's on LinkedIn. It's Norah Durrant. We will, if you're listening on Instagram Live, we'll post this on LinkedIn so you can watch the video again. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on our internet page, thetorwall.com. Norah, can you give us your website details just for anyone in case they want to have a look?
Yes, so if you look at, it's Deacon Search, DEACON Search. So have a look at that, or email me, or LinkedIn's probably the best way to contact me. If you want to just have a chat about your career and the future, I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I hope we've got the message across that now is the time for women to push forward in their career, whatever path that takes. You know, women put so many barriers in their own way. In a way that men often don't, and I think that is my mission in life, is to remove some of those barriers.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for joining us, Norah.
Thank you. Lovely to see you. Take care. Bye bye.